We got Farmboy Slim today, guys. So, welcome.
So,
This isn't necessarily a podcast, it is more of just conversation being recorded, but I guess you could just call that a podcast. But yeah, man, I'm really happy to have you on, man. Thanks for coming on and taking time out of your busy day. And I'm really excited to pick your brain and stuff, dude.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, it looks like a podcast. I'd call it that. You've got the. Is that a condenser mic right there?
Yeah.
Yeah, you've got the whole setup.
Yeah, but I'm also a musician, which I saw that you were too. So that's
Hmm.
primarily what I got the mic for, but it just kind of worked out that it allowed me to make content with it.
Yeah, all of us struggling musicians were able to seamlessly transfer into the podcast space.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, it works out perfectly because, as musicians now, you have to be your entire like media content creating
I
machine
know.
to be able to make that happen.
I know. I record all my own sounds, make my own beats or music or whatever, do my own editing and vocal recording, mixing. Usually I master it because I don't feel like paying somebody to master it.
Mm.
And then yeah, and then you upload it and you do all your own visuals and everything. It's a lot of work.
Yeah, dope, man. So I saw that you played some banjo and so it sounds like you make some beats and stuff too. And I saw you do a little bit of rapping and stuff. So I guess you're just all hands on deck, kind of multimedia with it.
Yeah, I've been rapping. I mean, I was singing in choir in high school, and then I've been rapping for probably 12 years now, 13 years, almost as long, just about the same amount of time I've been Sherman. I've been
Mm.
rapping. I don't know if the two coincided. Somebody rap battled me on MySpace once, and that was the beginning for it. Yeah, um,
Nice.
dates me, but
Yeah. Same.
yeah. So yeah, rapping is the passion, but I love singing and I've been recording for years. I've made lots of albums under different monikers, but I've recently removed all of them offline for the anonymity's sake.
Hmm.
Um, and everything now is going to be released under Farmboy Slim.
Cool. Yeah. So that's one of the things that I like about your content. And one of the things I wanted to ask you is that obviously you wear the mushroom costume, which is amazing, man. I love it. But I'm like curious, like what your thoughts are around anonymity, and does it have to do with the nature of, the legality of the things that you're talking about? Just some of your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so it's mostly that I was working with so these two guys that I don't know if you've seen them or not, but I've had them a few times on my channel on TikTok.
Mm.
They're guys I've made music with, and they were kind of the reason I started the channel. But working with them, I'm like, something that I'm doing with these guys is gonna pop, and I just don't want attention like that. And so the costume and the anonymity came out of a desire to not be famous. And I'm not saying that I'm famous. 400,000 TikTok followers is a far stretch from that, but it's still like, I've gone out into public dressed like this, and it's pretty conspicuous. But we went out to this place in Newport Beach, and I got recognized by like 5 or 6 people from TikTok. And I'm
Really?
like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's exactly why I put the costume on, because
Right.
if you're getting recognized, and that was when I had like 250,000 followers, and yeah, just keeping it anonymous. For the legality is, I mean, nothing I'm doing is illegal, so that's not really the point.
Right.
I don't want the heat just in my life though. I don't want, most of my friends don't know, you know. I've like my best friends know, and then like a couple people are gonna figure it out just because they've been to my parents' ranch, or it's gonna happen, but it's not something that I advertise.
Right. Yeah. So I saw you went into a Home Depot recent, or a Lowe's or something like that. What
Yeah.
was the react? Did you get? And I'm sure people saw, but like, was there anything notable that happened when you did that?
Yeah, I mean, there's always like one or two obnoxious people who are just like, "Hey, suicide man, you got shrooms on you?" Like,
Mm.
no, no, I don't have shrooms on me.
Yeah.
But usually, then there was one lady in there who was like, "What are you doing?" Yeah. But where I live is pretty, no one's gonna recognize this where I live. It's it's
Gotcha.
it's kind of there's not that many kids, and most of
Right.
my audience are teenagers, I think.
Right. That actually kind of leads me to some of the other stuff I wanted to talk to you about, because it seems like your primary platform. I've seen you on other platforms. I've contacted you through the Discord, and I saw you had an Instagram as well. But I know that you're mainly you started off at least with TikTok, and that plays a lot into like the angle that you're coming at this with, because the demographic on TikTok leans very, very much on the younger side, and you have experience. I think that it's really great that you're coming at it with this harm reduction angle, and you speaking from your experience, but you're also, not speaking on a high horse, which is like one of the things that like really made your content like you know stick out to me, and why I'm really excited to talk to you, because I feel like-minded in that sense, that people who have more experience, it's not necessarily like you're the guru and then you're bestowing your wisdom down. It's more like, hey, it's more of a horizontal network of peers, and it's more like, I've been around the block a little bit, here's what I learned to maybe save you some trouble. So I guess yeah, I just wanted to talk about like what it's been like to kind of come at it with this angle. And I also saw somewhere on your page that like someone close to you does harm reduction, so you're getting some really good information that way. So if you can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. So let's go back a little bit in your question there.
Mm,
Yeah, I wish when I was a teenager, and I don't know where, I know a lot of these kids are young. Um,
mm-hmm.
I don't know where people are like getting drugs these days. It seems like kids who are 14, 15 years old have access to everything now.
Mm,
And when I was that age, it was like we had to ask someone's older brother for weed, you know?
yeah.
And it's it's kind of scary to me in a way with how young people are in their access to these substances, because I think that is way too young to be using psychedelics.
Yeah.
I think you need to give yourself more time to just become a person first.
Yes.
But on the other side of that, they're doing it.
Right.
They're doing it with or without me. Um, I'm not their parent, and so the best thing I could do is, give them some just guidelines. Of course, after you have 5, 10 years of experience, and if you decide to continue down the path of psychedelic or plant medicine, those guidelines get looser. But sometimes I fuck up, and I remember, like, I had a pretty difficult trip recently, and I remembered after this, I'm like, God, I didn't follow my own fucking advice on this
So can you
on this
repeat
thing.
that? I didn't what?
Oh,
It
sorry.
kind of it kind of cut out a little bit.
I was saying I didn't follow my own advice
Okay.
during that trip, and afterward I realized, I was like, you idiot. Like, this is what you talk about all the time, and you just, even, I get flagrant sometimes,
Mm,
and I have to keep that in check. A lot of these things that I'm posting, I'm kind of talking to myself.
mm,
And also I'm talking to people who, like, I wish I had any kind of guidance when I was just starting out. It's like for the first several years, I was just like poking around in the dark, doing psychedelics however I felt. I really fucked myself up with acid.
mm,
Um, it was like a 10-year recovery from that.
mm,
And like a lot of like a lot of people say there's no such thing as bad trips, or it's like, and someone who's actually, I think he's pretty proficient, he recently responded to me with a disagreement video.
So my partner, she's done a lot of harm reduction at music festivals,
Mm.
and she's always worked medical at those places. And yeah, she has experience with people who are in like really, really bad states of mind. Um, she's dealt with people, like she's dealt with death at music festivals. She's dealt with all kinds of terrible things. And so even though I have a vast wealth of experience, she has a completely different experience that's kind of on a like less of like the personal use aspect and more of like the therapy harm reduction side of it, where like
Mm.
I consider all the trip tips and stuff, I consider that harm reduction just because, you know, it's stopping people from being just flagrant with it.
Right.
But she really knows what to do in bad situations. I'm actually going to make her a hat, and I'm going to get
Mm.
her on the channel, and we're going to start making content together. And I think that we were just talking about this as this progresses, because I've just now got like, I think I've got like 12 patrons,
Nice.
which I'm super stoked about. It's always really cool to see, like, I'm like, oh, people actually want to pay for my content. And she was talking about, yeah, as this gets bigger, you know, do a one higher tier, and then they can get my Google Voice number, and they'll have, you know, access to a licensed harm reductionist,
Mm.
you know, these hours during the week and stuff like that.
Mm.
She was, you know, we're talking about really like turning it into more of like a bigger, better thing than just, you know, being a TikTok influencer.
Yeah. Nice. That's brilliant, man. And you know, speaking of harm reduction and being what's the word you use? Not fraudulent, but
Flagrant.
flagrant. I remember what we were talking about earlier, man. You were talking about how you were recovering from your acid trips like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And I would really like to hear more about that, because I actually had a very similar experience, because I was starting a trip about 10 years ago. And at that time, a lot of stuff was being sold as acid, and it was actually a research chemical called N-bomb, which is like
Yeah.
one of the rare psychedelics that actually kills people. And I had some really bad experiences on that too. So yeah, please talk about that, man.
So yeah, I it was my first summer with psychedelics. I did mushrooms a bunch of times, and I did acid 3 times. And, you know, I did each time I did 400 micrograms, which is kind of a lot, I think. Um, again, I I've done plenty of acid over the years, but you know, I never needed to.
Mm.
But after that, I was really drunk and stoned at a friend's house about a month after my last acid trip there. Um, and I remember like the whole world like just started to collapse on me. I was having this flashback come in, and like I felt just so much gravity coming down onto me, and it really fucked up my mind state. Like something broke in my brain. And for the months after that, I got scraggly. I looked homeless. Um, I had a real rough time, and then I was dealing with serious, um, like, how do I phrase this? Let me back up a little. This is a pretty difficult story to recount. And I'll probably give you more information here than I've ever told anybody. So I didn't know it at the time, but I had been abused as a child. And what the psychedelic did was dig up that trauma. And I realized it in that acid flashback. Like a bunch of things in my life came like knocking into fucking line. And it all happened right at once, and it really fucked my head up. It screwed up my sexuality and when I say it took 10 years to heal from that, I didn't I came out of the closet like 3 times, but then like something about it never felt right, you know. Like I tried so many different things, and then like it slowly started to like I started to piece together kind of what had happened to me over the year, like when I was young. Before, I can't remember it, but like but everything points to it now. I got to a place like after 10 years where I was able to stop like stressing about it. And I was able to just move on with my life. I was like, I just settled for being bi, even though I don't have real interest in guys. There's just like this part of me that still feels that way, but it's not like, you know, and as many times as I've tried, you know, to like hook up with a guy or something, it never worked. Like something, it just never, I couldn't do it. And the closer I got to understanding what had happened in my life, the easier all of these things became for me. I was able to understand what was like causing me these feelings and what was going on. It's like, and I you know, I got therapy, and it's, you know, it just took a long time to reconcile these like broken feelings, like a like a sexual orientation that was split in two. It was really fucking awful. You know, for a while I was dealing with gender dysphoria. I'm like, well, I feel gay, but I like women, so maybe that makes me, you know, a woman or something. I don't know. It was really fucked up. And yeah, it, you know, to this day, I still have like work to do on myself. You know, the lifelong trauma of what I realized is a long process. But in a way, I guess in a way, I thank the acid for that, for bringing that to me and making me go through it. But I really wish it would have come about more gently.
Right.
You
It
know?
was like, whether you're ready or not, here it is.
Here it is. This is what you're going to deal with for the next 10 years solid. And aside from that, all of the weird insecurity that I had over the years,
Right.
all of the just like the pain and existential angst that I was always feeling, and social inadequacy. I was never able to communicate. Like my 20s were hell. I was never able to communicate with anybody. I was never able to talk about anything. Like it didn't matter what I did. I felt awful all the time. But you know, slowly it got better. And I was able to really get through it. And a big part of that is mushrooms. A big part of that is psilocybin. When I really like set myself right, it was this 3-4 month period where I was taking 0.5 gram on Wednesday and like 1.5 grams on Saturdays. I did that for a few months, and it got me to a place where like every Wednesday I was just kind of like realigning, and then every Saturday or Friday night I was delving in and doing basically medicinal shamanic work on myself. Now I don't claim to be a shaman. It's the kind of thing that you would do like in a ceremony. So yeah, that's the short of why I don't fuck with acid. Because and aside from that, times after that I had done it in my early 20s, I just walked too close to the edge. I
Mm,
walked too close to the edge of sanity with that stuff. And again, I don't know if it's acid or not, but regardless, mushrooms has never done that to me.
mm,
I always come home. With acid, I never came home.
mm. Wow. Well, yeah, I thank you for, the like honesty and bravery it takes to like say all of that. And like, that is incredible to hear that you were able to recover from that, because like you and I probably both know, there are a lot of, they have a term for acid casualties, right? There are a lot of people
Yeah.
who never come back from that, who
Yeah.
never reassemble. The people who have the ego death experience, but they can never reassemble. The idea behind ego death is that you reassemble the ego and you become whole again and have a more healthy, balanced ego. But some people just get lost in these schizophrenic waters, and especially in your 20s, because that is when we're most susceptible to these type of mental illnesses, especially if it runs in your family and stuff. And because we don't have like a shamanic function in our culture, we don't have anyone telling us, hey, be careful here, or like, here's what to do if you get deep in this shit over here. Like, we don't have anything like that. So to hear that you went through all of that and you were able to recover, I'm sure you had a support system that helped you along the way, but a lot of the work you had to do yourself. And so it's incredible you could even include the mushroom in your support system. And so yeah, it's incredible to just hear that. So like, what you said, it was like a period of 3 or 4 months, like what was some of that like shamanic type of work that you feel like really helped with that?
So the mushrooms themselves kind of brought it to me. This is a part of why I stress lower doses so
Mm,
often, because you don't need to blast off. Like I don't feel like blasting off and you know ego deathing and all that. I don't feel like a lot of you personally, like if you're alone, you can't really get good work done like that. You
mm.
need part of yourself still there so that you can have a conversation with the
Interesting.
medicine.
Interesting.
But so the mushroom brought it to me one night, and it was like I had this close. I was sitting in front of a campfire, and I had this closed eye hallucination of like these like millions of little nurse micro robots, and they were just like covering my insides and like just working on me.
Mm,
And I realized then I was like, oh, I can ask for this.
mm,
I can do that. Like the mushroom just brought this to me, but I don't have to wait. I can be like, can you help me out? And it will. And so that was the beginning for me of really like treating it like a medicine. I mean, I had before kind of unconsciously treated it like a medicine. I'd used it
mm,
for lots of um like I knew it made me feel better and I just didn't really know why.
mm-hmm.
I knew it made my whole life just feel stronger and I felt more confident. Um, and now I have a better understanding of, oh yeah, I can do this with intention and I can be conscious about my choices while I'm tripping and I can communicate with the medicine for a more productive outcome.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, during that time, I was just this was actually relatively recently. This was right before the pandemic started. Um, and this, I mean, I'd already been tripping for, 11, 12 years. It's just all of my experiences just kind of started to culminate and come to a click. Um, and yeah. So through those few months, I just became more and more symbiotic with the mushroom instead of just like taking a psychedelic and tripping,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um it became medicinal for me consciously, when before I was self-medicating with it. Now I'm using it to help my life.
Gotcha. Nice. So like at what point did you feel like you wanted to start sharing that? Because it seems like your page, it doesn't seem like you've been doing this for very long.
Yeah, no, May 22nd was the first video we put up.
Oh wow.
And again, a lot of it was their idea. These guys, they're called Bad Taste. They're
Mm,
their music project.
mm,
Really great producers. They're like, yeah, well, we could do this. We could try to like, we have initially tried to make it work with like music. When when the page kind of kicked off, it was clear that to me that wasn't really gonna work immediately,
mm,
because that's not what people had subscribed for. It's like they didn't
mm.
subscribe because we put a hot song out. They subscribed because I told them about Pinnalis cinctulus, psychedelic mushrooms.
Yeah.
But it was all, like it was their idea to be like, yeah, do something about mushroom facts or whatever. You know a lot about that. And I'm like, okay, I'll do some mushroom facts. It was really, it was super benign and organic. The first video I put up was pretty irresponsible. It got like almost 1 million views within 2 days, and it was like it was telling people like about Pinnalis cinctulus and about where they grew, but it didn't give nearly enough information, and it
Mm,
left open for people to like, oh, I'm gonna go pick mushrooms off my lawn. And then I got really scared. I was like, there's
yeah.
no reason I should have this up right now. This has to go away. They were, they ultimately were supportive, but at first they were pretty upset about it because we had just got like 30,000 followers and all of that. But for the,
Mm,
I'm happy that it happened, but it was kind of for the wrong reason in the beginning.
right.
I'm happy I got rid of that video. I'm happy that I've I feel like I've more than covered for what that video, that one video could have done. Um, so yeah, I'm pretty happy that I was able to turn that around. But yeah, the beginning was scary. And
Yeah.
especially because when it blows up like that, it it we didn't expect it to happen,
Mm,
and out of nowhere, like the videos got all these fucking views, and half the people love it, half the people hate it for the right reason.
mm,
They
mm,
hate it because it was irresponsible, and it was a real fast learning process.
mm. Yeah. I didn't even know that. See, because you had taken the video down. So
Yeah.
that's interesting. I actually kind of wanted to back up a little bit because I wanted to ask you this a second ago. This idea of the how powerful intentionality is in psychedelic experiences, especially with the mushroom, and especially if you go into it treating the mushroom with immense respect and as if it is an entity, which people have differing ideas on how literal they want to take this idea of an entity. But the idea being, that you come to the mushroom with an intention of, you want to heal, you want to like find out something. And I saw in one of your videos, you say plain and clear, like it will deliver. And I have verified this independently. So like, I guess I just wanted to hear your thoughts on that. Cause like, I'll just give you a short little anecdote.
Yeah.
When I took some mushrooms a few years back, the big thing that I was searching for, and this was like the first trip report I made on my YouTube channel, and I my biggest like thing that I wanted was to like get in touch with my ancestors, because in America, if you have European ancestry, you're kind of cut off from any traditions. Like we don't know if we're Irish or French. Like it's most likely a mix, and we don't have any. Like, what is our culture? Hamburgers? Like we don't really have a culture to hang on to. And then you look at these indigenous societies that are connected to the psychedelics and connected to the psychedelic space, and they have this like sacred relationship with their ancestors. So I felt like that was missing. So that's the thing that I brought to the mushroom. And I was like, once I felt like I was in the presence of the mushroom intelligence, I asked like, how do I know my ancestors? And I was given all of these visions and even like a literal answer that said their art. And I got visions of alchemy, and then it just like led me down this rabbit hole that I'm like still going down. So it's like that's my proof that if you go to this thing with the intention or even like a actual question, it will deliver. And so yeah, I just want to hear some of your thoughts on that.
That's awesome, man. I'm super happy to hear that that's your experience with it. Um, yeah, that sounds super cool. Um, yeah, as far as delivering, like with, you know, it seems like the more people talk to you, the more times you repeat yourself. But with the channel itself, especially like right after I deleted that video,
Mm,
I I took a small dose and I asked them specifically, I'm like, what, like, I need some clear guidance here. Am I
mm,
am I doing wrong by doing this channel, by
yeah.
doing this? And they came back to me with, um, for the world, you're fine, forge ahead, do it right. Um, for your family, uh, I think they didn't give me an answer for family. They're like, that's something we can't answer for you. And then for yourself, you need to decide for yourself, so I can't, they don't remove the responsibility from you, but it
Mm,
was a direct conversation with it. That was pretty nice and clear. It gave me, it at least let me know that, I'm not fucking up by some natural law,
mm,
which was my biggest fear.
right.
um because there's the laws of humans and then there's the laws of nature,
Right.
and you don't want to break those.
Yeah, because you don't want to feel like you're capitalizing on something sacred, right? And you,
Absolutely not.
yeah, right.
Yeah. I
Especially
mean,
knowing what can come your way if cross the mushroom.
yeah, crossing the mushroom is a bad idea.
Mm,
Just being irresponsible
mm,
is enough to cross it.
mm-hmm.
And you you don't want to lose your intention with it. Um yeah, asking it for, I remember there was, I forget what I was working on. It was just it was an emotional, mental, you know, current life situation I was working on.
Mm,
And I took, again, 1.2 is my favorite dose. It's just, I feel like it's like the perfect medicinal dose for
mm,
me. Um, and I went and did what I tell people not to do. And I laid down in bed and closed my eyes, but I was having a conversation with the mushroom, and we were going through whatever it was that I was dealing with at the time. And then they introduced something else, like a different subject. And I was like, no, no, not this today. Let's save that for another time. And they're like, all right. And then just kind of pushed it to the side and we went back to the main thing.
mm.
Which I think is really cool that you're capable of doing that. Like you have a lot more say in what happens in your trip than most people think. A lot,
Yeah,
it usually comes down to semantics, because everyone's just like, you just go for the ride, you're just taking the ride, you're not in control. And it's like, well, for a lot of it, yeah, no, you're not in control, but to a certain extent you have a
yeah,
lot of say in what happens in your experience, and they respond to that. And I feel like if you're not having that dialogue with them, you're missing out on a lot of the experience. And I always get a lot of hate when I say stuff like that. I always get a lot of pushback from people who are just like, you just let it go, you just got to go with it. And I'm like, yeah, you go with it, but you can also steer,
mm-hmm.
you know
Mm-hmm.
and they're like, well, that's just an ego thing, that's just an ego thing. I'm like, well, yeah, I haven't experienced an ego death, I'm still here.
Mm.
um I'm not merged with my environment or anything, but that doesn't make it not useful. That doesn't make it
Yeah.
not helpful and productive for my life. Like, the ultimate goal is to have a better life. That's the point.
Mm-hmm.
um and tripping itself, like, if it didn't make my life better, I wouldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
That's simple as that.
Yeah, I feel like that makes me think of a bunch of things. One is that this idea of steering it probably has something to do with you taking a smaller dose, because like at 1.2 grams, you know, you're taking the mushroom, you probably have some ability to steer, but once you get deeper and deeper, it's like the mushroom's taking you. So at a certain point, you have no choice but to like let it go and ride, because you are no longer able to steer. But that's not always the case, and it's not always necessary, like you're saying. So I appreciate like the nuance that you're bringing to that topic, and like these people who are like giving you problems for, you know, thinking otherwise, like honestly it sounds kind of egotistical for them to care about what you're doing with your psychedelic experiences. So I don't get
Yeah.
it, man. But that's pretty cool, man. Yeah, like I think that's very, very interesting that you talk about that idea of like being able to steer it, and get these like little practical nuggets out, you know, for your life. Because yeah, it's I I I noticed this too, because like I've only had one or two kind of big experiences in my life, and you know, I make psychedelic content, and so obviously that's not a lot. If I want to keep making content about these like experiences like DMT breakthrough or heroic dose, and it's like that stuff is exciting, and it's like the almost the drama of it is what makes it like clickbait of the psychedelic world. But it's like that's not the whole picture. But it's just like kind of sad that that's like the human nature side of it that we have to kind of deal with. And I don't know, I'll just continue to do my thing and, you know, like bring nuance to the table. So I appreciate you doing that as well. So just kind of thinking out loud here.
Yeah, definitely. I totally I mean, I agree that it's clickbaity to talk about the, because everybody wants to, especially when you don't have any experience, everybody wants to trip balls.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like it's just not necessary. I mean, I sometimes I do. Sometimes I take very large doses or just larger doses and have that full immersion experience. But it's not the most important aspect to me. It's so much less it's funny to like think of it this way, but it seems like for me the bigger experiences are less significant than the medicinal maintenance type experiences.
Mm.
They do less good for my life.
Yeah.
um
Less to bring back, kind of.
yeah,
It's
and
like a whole other dimension.
sometimes I do like I'll make clickbaity shit sometimes because I'm trying to draw people in. But you know, I hope that, you know, the people that come in, they click the clickbaity shit, but then they see most of the other content, the stuff that doesn't get hundreds of thousands of views, you know,
Mm.
the stuff that sometimes some of my favorite videos, they'll get like 10,000 views on TikTok, which is pretty sad for the amount of followers I have.
Mm.
and and I'm just hoping that the ones that stick around see those, because those are where like the real meat of my content is at.
Mm.
Like the video I just posted 2 3 4 days ago about it has no like educational content whatsoever. It was just saying like when you're 2 hours in and forget English,
Oh yeah.
and it's got that song playing that's like tonight or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and but it's
Mm-hmm.
all in like gibberish. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
that one got a bunch of views, and I
Yeah.
got a few thousand followers off of that. But hopefully those followers, they come in, they see what the channel's actually about, because that was a fun video, but it's not the point, you know.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's good, because you also don't want to get stagnant in your approach.
Yeah,
So
yeah, definitely. Yeah, and that's that too. Like today, like I usually post every day, but every once in a while, you know, like today I was just like, I just don't have anything to talk about today.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
which is fine. It's fine. There's no the TikTok algorithm's really brutal, and you have to be careful not to get caught up in the numbers,
Uh-huh.
especially with what my goal is, which, you know, I would like to make this more of like a bigger content creation part of my life, but I need to make
Mm.
sure that I'm making the content for the content's sake and not for the numbers, not
Yeah.
for the views or whatever comes out of it.
Yeah.
And sometimes, you know, when you see those numbers run up, you can get lost in that. And that's
Yeah.
actually, you know, that's ego shit.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is, you know, human nature. It's going to happen. But, you know, like you've said in your videos, it's not about not having an ego. It's about keeping it in check. So it's like that stuff's going to happen. You're going to get lost in the sauce, but you got to be able to recognize that and hopefully pull yourself out. So that actually is part of what I wanted to ask you too, because it seems like you're kind of in this transitionary like stage right now where you've established yourself on TikTok, but you're starting your Patreon, you're kind of getting your Discord going, you have Instagram. So like what is kind of your move, like what, or at least your goals that you're trying to go for right now?
I want to put a lot more stuff on Patreon. I want to
Mm-hmm.
get a lot deeper.
Mm-hmm.
On TikTok, I have to be so careful with my
Right.
words. And I just got a notice. I think it's like a content. I think it was a app-wide notice about they're like redoing their terms of service in March, and I'm like, oh, they're just gonna make it fucking harder.
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna make it harder for me to like talk freely about the way that I need to speak to create this content.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I could do it on YouTube, but part of that is that not everybody needs that information that I want to put on Patreon. Not everybody needs to hear about really difficult or advanced topics or things where I can or topics about which I want to speak more openly because they're not that as invested, you know.
Mm-hmm.
They're not as, the information isn't necessary for them because they're not there.
Mm-hmm.
If they really like, if they decide to go to the Patreon, like they're really seeking out the information. And I like that. I like that they're committed to going deeper with it.
Right.
And on TikTok, I can't put that stuff up for views. I
Mm-hmm.
can't put up certain content just, you know, just because it's content. It's irresponsible and it's not safe at a certain point. You could fuck people's heads up. And like
Yeah.
in the Patreon, like I make it very clear that what I'm saying is dangerous. Like some of these topics, I've only have one video like this right now, but some of these topics they're not for beginners.
Right.
And I had some guy on Instagram recently comment something like, what is this pseudo spiritual homoerotic shit or something else? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? I don't know. It's like, it's just because I was talking about it being advanced or whatever. And he's like, you sound like two Buddhists trying to talk about who's more enlightened than the other. I'm like, no, I just don't want to tell specifically people like you what this
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah, I totally get what you mean. Yeah, like on the Patreon, you know that it's people like, yeah, who are seeking it out. And so you don't have to I mean, you still have to be careful, but not in the same generalized kind of way that you need to on TikTok and stuff. So that's
Oh
interesting,
yeah,
man. Go ahead.
sorry to cut you off there.
No, go ahead.
What I was the TikTok thing, you have to be, not only do you have to be careful with just not giving people, you know, too much information or just more than they need or can handle. TikTok will ban you
Right.
quickly. And that is currently where all of my traffic is coming from. You know, my Discord is entirely built up of people that came from TikTok. And that's like, Discord is really where I'm trying to grow it right now. I think we've got like 4,000 people in there, and that's a really good Discord server. And I'm really happy about that. But I'm just trying to build that more and more and more and just build my other platforms. Part of that's a lot of paranoia regarding TikTok and their policies because they're pretty puritanical. And even if what I'm talking about is meant to help people, sometimes they're like, you're promoting drugs. I'm like, not really. I just want to, I just want, these guys to have someone like me. And I mean,
Mhm.
someone like I wish I would have had.
Right, right. Exactly. Yeah, and that's what's powerful about starting to create a community too, is because it won't only be you too. Now you're connecting people that hopefully with good intention, will you other people will be able to help other people in a mass kind of way that you wouldn't be able to physically do if you were to talk to every single person that came to you with a question. So I feel very much the same way, because we're kind of in this psychedelic renaissance, where these things are emerging into the mainstream and people are recognizing the benefits. But as you and I know, when we were first getting into it, it was very much taboo still, and so we didn't have people to talk about this openly with. So yeah, it is really nice to have that ability to be what you wish you had when you were younger. And I feel like that in other areas of life too, like music. Like I wish someone would have explained this to me or that. It's just nice to have these things kind of a little more open, and to have people promoting not promoting use, but promoting harm reduction and safety. And all these things are so important, because it's kind of just by chance that someone like you or me made it through those early days without going completely schizo, so it's like,
Yeah.
if we can avoid that for anyone else, that will be a victory.
Yeah, that is the hope.
Hmm.
Um the uh the the hope with the Discord too is that is where like I can really pretty much talk to anyone. On TikTok, it's impossible to really try and have a conversation with anybody. But
Hmm.
in Discord, pretty much anyone can get a hold of me. All you have to do is message me and I see it.
Hmm.
Unless there were like thousands of people trying to talk to me actively, it's not hard to talk to people there.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm really trying to move the Discord into a more harm reduction focused area. There was this guy who was telling me his friend was tripping for like 30 hours on there,
Oh shit.
having probably a psychiatric emergency.
Yeah.
And I was trying to be there with like, it's still hard. I'm still really in the early days with this.
Mm.
If for him, I feel like all I could do was just try to comfort him, you know.
Hmm.
um my my partner said she said I can give him my Google Voice number. She could talk to him if they need anything, but I told him, it sounds like you've got a psychiatric emergency on your hands. This is something you need real help for.
Right.
um but yeah, that was just going back to hoping that people don't skits out, and you never know when someone is going to have that. You never know when that's going to be a problem, because people have underlying mental conditions that they're unaware of, and then psychedelics bring them out, as they did with me when I was young.
Mm-hmm.
um and and yeah, it's like a beautiful world, but it's also a scary world, and you don't want to be irresponsible with it.
Yeah, absolutely agreed. um have you had any other friend, you talk about your own experience, but have you had any like close friends who kind of like fell under with that kind of stuff, because I can think of a few, at least one in particular, who it was a friend, he was I'm really better friends with his brother, but they both started getting into mushrooms. And then this my friend's brother, he started taking them all the time. And at first it was okay, and he was like, oh, I can't believe this world has been like hidden from me for so long, things just make sense. And you're like, I was like happy for him, because it's like it sounded like he was coming to a lot of realizations, and that can be a really beautiful thing. But quickly it devolved into this very scary thing where he just like lost contact with any kind of consensus reality, and like it got into a really scary and dark place. And he was like treating his family differently, and it's like just sad that, and it feels like mushrooms, the fact that he was taking them so frequently exacerbated this problem immensely. So
Mhm.
have you had any friends or anybody close to you that also happened to?
Oh yeah. Um, there's one person who I can think of. I don't want to call them back into my life, so I'm going to be as vague as possible here.
Sure.
But they have uh, some kind of psychiatric problem. It might be schizophrenia.
Mhm.
Um, and basically they turned into a, and they had a really shitty upbringing, but they turned into a giant asshole.
Mm.
Um, and just, I mean, generally it happens when people get a chip on their shoulder, start thinking they're better, start thinking like they get God complexes.
Mm.
Um, I touched on things like that in my life too, where I just felt like I was special, and that's not to be like depressing, like, oh, I'm not special, but like
Right.
special in a way that's like the most special,
Right.
or
Yeah.
like the chosen one. Like the the I put up that one video about it, and about like a psychedelic abuse leading people to believing things like that,
Mhm.
like being the chosen one, or a God complex, or being super overtly egotistical, or just
Mhm.
be acting crazy. And you know I think 500 to or so comments were like, but I am the chosen one, like,
Oh God.
most of that's a joke,
Right,
but
right.
a lot of it isn't.
Mhm.
um there were so many, like, that video connected with so many people, and so many, I got like basically the same 3 or 4 comments, but over like 6,500 comments, but it
Mhm.
was just the same things over and over and over and
Right.
over and over again. And I'm like, yeah, oh shit, that's real.
You
That's really
touched a
real.
nerve. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's, because psychedelics can be so insanely positive, that's like the shadow that people don't want to acknowledge.
Yeah.
And so we kind of talked about this at the beginning, like we don't want to just only be love and light, like all of that is great, but it's not the whole picture. And especially if we don't ignore the shadow, it's going to grow, and it's also going to maybe delegitimize and cause like a backlash. We don't want to get another war on drugs type of
God,
thing.
no.
So I think that it's important to like acknowledge that, like, I don't think we have the answers as to like how to prevent. I mean, maybe we can prevent it by like screening people better, and being like, if you have these type of tendencies or something like that, maybe you should stay away from this just to begin with. So I don't have any answers for that, but maybe we can start to develop stuff like that if these things are accepted as legitimate. So that's the problem
Yeah.
with it being underground, is that this is just like a free for all.
Yeah. You're totally right. It is a free for all. I think talking about it, like having these conversations, is a big way to start that. Like, people do need to people do need to know about the dark side.
Mm-hmm.
It's real. I went through a lot of it. I went through a lot of it with psychedelics, and a lot of people a lot of people think they're having a good time when they're not. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of people think that they're having like really deep, profound experiences when really they're just getting tossed around. And I've seen it lots of times, and they think they're having a good time. They're not having a good time. If if you and me are on the same dose, and you can't see where you are, and I'm standing right next to you, and I'm like having to like hold you, you're not having a good time.
Mm-hmm.
You're off the edge at that point.
Mm-hmm.
um and that's you know that's everything I'm trying to help prevent, is people just fucking their heads up with this stuff, because it's going to become more and more prevalent. I do think it needs to be legal, but I think it needs to be, you know it needs a lot more information. It's
Yeah.
not like weed. You
Yeah.
know, pot can be legal and it doesn't hurt anybody. You either like it or you don't, or you get paranoid one time, or you freak out, and you stop doing it, or it's great for you and you do it all the time. Psychedelics are way more consequential.
Yes. Yes. Especially when you have the dynamic of like these shaman characters. Like you hear a lot of really horrible stories about ayahuasca circles and people who are abusive. They're already assholes as it is, but if you abuse someone while they're under the influence of psychedelics, that's like worse than any kind of torture that like you can imagine. That's like beyond evil to do that to someone when they're in that state of mind. Like I cannot even imagine the horrors of like what some of these people have had to deal with. So yeah, it's like going to be, and that's where I think this idea of like a horizontal peer-to-peer network is one way we can counter that stuff, to be like, hey, that ayahuasca circle is sketchy, don't go there, or something like that. And because it's such a free for all, we need more information. I totally agree with that. Totally.
Yeah. And I think this is a good start. I mean, I know there's a lot of information out there. We're not the only people talking about it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of bad information too. I'm hoping that we cloud that. I want it to be, that's part of the desire for making the platform a lot bigger, is that it can overshadow, certain other creators who I will leave nameless here, because I don't want to give them attention. But there's some people that out there that are really feel like they're doing a disservice, is being actively irresponsible. And again, it's a lot of kids. A lot of kids are seeing this stuff. And I mean, as the first time I heard about magic mushrooms, it was an Eminem song.
Really?
And yeah, when I was like 11 or 12 years old, and something inside of me always knew that I was going to do that shit, you know? But if I had had access, man, would I have fucked my life up?
Yeah. It's a good thing you didn't, man. Yeah. And
what were we talking about?
We were just talking about like this like harm reduction and like people who are the information being the thing to empower people in this free for all, and how there is bad information out there. Speaking of bad information, I didn't know this was such a problem until I started producing content based on psychedelic stuff. The spam and like scammers that are like flooding the comments.
Dude, it's so bad.
Even on the smaller stuff, it's like
so bad.
I have to delete like 6, like hit up Willie Myko on Insta, blah blah blah, and it's like clearly some broken English, and like, but people will respond to the comment and be like, "Oh, really?" And I have to like explain to. One time I explained to like a 61-year-old person on TikTok, like that's a scam, like because I was like, "Oh, stupid bots," and then they were like, "Bots? Like what is that?" And I was like, yeah, this is definitely, I don't know if it's like someone in another country who's like pretending, or if it is a bot, but either way, it's definitely a scam and you need to stay away. But they're prolific, man.
Yeah. I think it's a sophisticated bot that there's only like a couple people behind, and they target any psychedelic related content on the platform. You can mitigate a lot of that by, in your privacy settings, you can choose to filter words for your comments.
Yeah.
And I've got a huge list of keywords that I've got filtered out, and still, every other day or so, one of them slips through. And I block that person, refresh, all of their comments disappear. But that's a constant problem.
Yeah,
it is. It's fucking obnoxious.
Yeah. I'll have to ask you about that later, because I'll probably need to get some of those keywords from you, man.
Yeah, buy, sell, plug.
That's good.
Instagram.
Yeah.
The thing is, I have IG also, but it really sucks, because then you have to go into your filtered comments, and you have, because anybody says the word right, it filters that comment out.
Mm.
So if someone says, oh yeah, I was up the other night, that comment gets filtered out.
Hmm.
So that's a problem there,
Mm-hmm.
of
Yeah.
just like inconvenience, but it's better than
Yeah.
having hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of, or thousands of
Yeah.
spam comments.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause if I'm getting them, on a video that gets, a couple hundred views, I can only imagine what it's like on your channel, man.
Yeah, it sucks.
Yeah. And it's
But
on
yeah,
all platforms too. It happens on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok. It's everywhere, man.
really,
Yeah.
because I really haven't posted much to YouTube. I don't have the energy for it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm already on too many platforms. I just don't have and YouTube is by far the slowest platform to upload to.
Mm.
There's no other app that takes as long. Uploading a 4 or 5 minute video can take a fucking hour.
Mm.
It's unbelievable.
I feel like it got faster recently. I don't know when the last time you tried was, but the last few times I've uploaded, it went really fast actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Maybe I should try again, because that's how I have to do the Patreon videos. I put them unlisted
Okay.
on YouTube and
Oh,
then
okay.
link it in Patreon.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I don't know if it might just depend on the file size or something like that too. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, one last thing I wanted to talk to you about, since we're both musicians, I
Yeah.
wanted to get into the synergy of music and psychedelics, and like some of my most powerful experiences were accompanied by music and the emotions that arise from that. So
Yeah.
have you had any like specific experiences with music, or any thoughts on just like the synergy of the two or the role that it plays?
Yeah, definitely. I love that you just, because the auditory hallucinations on mushrooms are awesome.
Mm,
And when music's playing, that's really amplified.
mm.
You hear things in the music that either you've never heard before or they're not even there.
Yeah.
But I had like, there was one trip I was on. I was hiking up the mountain behind my parents' house, and I was listening to this Vince Staples album the whole way up and down and I was tripping. And during that album, I was listening, there a couple songs came up, and like in that moment, I realized, oh, this girl that I'm with at the time is just another girlfriend.
uh,
Like it was like this girl who I was head over heels for, and I was like, this is awesome. And then I realized that, and I'm like, all right, well, I still got to let this relationship ride out, even though she's not the one. And it wasn't until a year later that we broke up. But in that
Dang.
moment, I knew that it was like, oh, this is really finite. Um,
Dang.
so that was a powerful music related experience, because the song that was playing was it triggered all those thoughts to come into play.
Do you think it was the lyrics, or just the emotion of the song itself?
Yeah, the lyric was something like if I never knew you, I could never do this to you, or something.
Mm.
um it was pretty I forget what it was, but
Okay.
it was that one. Oh yeah, this one time sitting in the car, and we were listening to Animal Collective, and every time uh a lyric came out of the speaker, I saw the words in front of me, and then there were I saw the words change spaces with no change to the order of the letters, and it created a new sentence, and it did that like 6 7 times in a row.
Oh, wow.
It was fucking awesome.
Yeah.
That was just one of the coolest music experiences, and also just like freestyle rapping
Yeah.
while tripping is really fun, because you can come out with some pretty ridiculous stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that stuff is really cool. How about you,
Nice.
man? What are your like profound music experiences with it?
I've had a couple, man. Well, my like most recent one I'll say is I was on LSD and I was listening to this Brazilian song. It's this artist named Lo Borges, and he's been a songwriter. He's been in the game for quite a while. He actually, this was one of his newer songs, and he's like in his 60s already, and he's still writing amazing, like beautiful music. And I was listening to it, and I maybe had heard the song only once before, so it was still pretty fresh to me. And the song, just the emotion that it caused in me, it was just like it felt like the soundtrack to like human curiosity about the cosmos, and like this whole theme of us being like these curious apes that are like cosmic in nature, and like exploring our cosmic nature, and just like that whole the curiosity and how that's like so essential to our being. And like it was just like this was the theme song for that, and it was just like this, oh, this power, like to me it's like that is what life is about, and that's at like the crux of so many things that are important to me. It's like music and expression, and like this idea of like curiosity being like so inherent in our nature. And like so just that was so powerful, man. And that has been like enough inspiration to kind of fuel my songwriting for like, you know, the next year.
Badass.
Yeah. And then the first big one was kind of like my breakthrough experience, that it was like my first real like kind of ego dissolution, and it's the reason that I like became a psychedelic person as opposed to like just someone casually. And it was Tame Impala, and it was in 2011. So we were listening to their first album, which is like stoner rock, right? It's like this
Yeah.
cosmic stoner rock.
Is that the
And
one where the album is like
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
that's Inner Speaker, yes.
Yeah.
So you know it's already got some cosmic vibes when you just see the cover. And we were listening to it, and I was coming up on 2 hits of LSD. And I was already having some like really beautiful visuals that were just like, you know, amazing. I was dumbfounded by the beauty of like what I saw visually. So we go in the car, and I'm like coming up, and we like started to smoke some weed, and we put on Tame Impala. Like that's what we did. That was like our routine at that time. Like go in the car, hotbox it, and listen to some Tame Impala. And they had this song called Expectation, and the there's a music video of them, and they're playing in a forest, and they play barefoot a lot of the time. But like my brain was making some connections that was like extremely literal with all of that information. So like I felt like the connection between the fact that they played barefoot and like the sound of their music being rooted in the earth. And so I felt this, the rootedness, the earthiness, and I could like hear the tones of earth and mud, and like the plant, the energy of the planet in the music. But it was like not only earthy, but like cosmic. It like took the whole spectrum. And this was actually what triggered the sensation of what I would later find out is called a Kundalini awakening, where I felt the whole energy going up my spine and through the chakra system. And I felt it like kind of boiling up in my like chest area. And then eventually it was in my heart. And then I felt all this love. And then I felt like it was bubbling up so intensely that I had to express it. And then that like became my life mission to like express whatever this feeling was. And like it was triggered by that Tame Impala music, because like it started from the lower like earthy rootedness, and then it went all the way up and just blasted me off into space. So I've had this more experiences, but those are like the 2 that come to mind.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had a Kundalini like experience on LSD once too, where like I became this like layered like snake, and it kind of like shingled upward. I felt kind of like what you were explaining, the feeling of the rising energy from within going up through your chakras.
Yeah.
And very like always with LSD, it was always very like Hindu vibes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I understand why they had so much obsession with India in the 60s, you know?
Yes, dude. Yes. You're
Yeah.
speaking my language right now.
Yeah, I've seen lots of Hindu stuff on LSD.
Yeah.
But you know, Not so much on mushrooms.
Yeah.
Yeah, not really.
Do you get any other kind of like motifs? Because some people report like seeing those kind of Aztec symbols and things like that. Do you see anything like that?
As far as like nowadays,
Mm,
um, sometimes if I'm tripping hard enough to have hallucinations,
right.
um, but not as much anymore. Um, I feel like a lot of that has been lost to my own personal psychedelic history, where it's like I'm not looking for those things anymore. I'm not looking for like the beautiful flashy stuff.
Yeah.
I'm just more looking for the inner peace that I feel.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Well, it's yeah, everyone's on different parts of their journey, because the flashy stuff is what got me into psychedelics in the first place, right? Like,
Yeah,
and
definitely.
it's all part of the journey because like, yeah, the thing that intrigued me initially was like my friend telling me that, oh, I saw these beautiful like colors and these patterns and stuff. I was like, that sounds pretty cool. Like, I want to see something beautiful. And like, sure enough, I got like these Hindu Sanskrit 3D holographic Christmas trees and like just
Fuck yeah.
amazing stuff, man. So, but
Yeah.
like, yeah, I think that, yeah, learning later that you need to use these things to work on yourself and all of that is definitely valid and important. But yeah, it's just all part of the journey, man.
Yeah, the flashy stuff is fun, and you're right. It's what hooks people.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like how we could use it as clickbait on our own content. It's like how
Yeah.
the medicine itself uses its own clickbait. It's like, you like this? Now
Yeah.
hit this.
Yeah. Oh, dude, I
Yeah.
love that. That's so perfect,
Yeah,
man.
they're really smart like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah, and they needed to be treated as such. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Well, yeah, man. I think this is a good time to wrap it up. And
Cool.
super appreciate you talking to me. And I had a blast. I was looking forward to it, and it was great to meet you and get to talk to you a little bit. And yeah, I hope we get to do it again sometime.
Yeah, me too. Thank you. And next time we'll have far less technical problems on my end.
Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah.
The technology gods will be on our side.
Yes, they will. Well, I'll be I didn't realize what I was really getting into entirely until you showed up on the screen, and I was like, oh shit, this is way more professional than I was even prepared for.
No,
But
no.
yeah, I'll have it stepped up next time. But thank you for being interested, man. It's really great to talk to you. It's always nice to talk to someone else just of a similar mindset
Yeah.
with this stuff, so it's not so much, I wanted to trip on 5 grams today. Oh, okay. I mean, if you really have to.
Yeah. 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 Don't be a hero, man.
Yeah. All right.
All
Have a
right.
good night, man.
Yep. You too. Peace.
Peace.